Hey everyone, we're finally back. This is the season ending Stick and Puck Fantasy Hockey League recap. It's been a while, but we're finally back.
It's been 84 years.
Here are the standings at the end of the regular season. We see that Team 1 was in first in the Prince of Wales division, while Lenny's Legends was first in Clarence Campbell. Making the playoffs were the Mustachios and Egg United, Slay All Day, and Doketown Danglers. Those were your 6 playoff teams. Spoiler alert, final standings. Lenny's in first, Team 1 in second, Mustachios in third, Egg United fourth, Doketown Danglers fifth, Slay All Day sixth, Dead seventh, Skill Stick Fail eighth, Forest Hills Flames ninth, and as I predicted, dead last. How is this happening? Well, we know how that happened. Negligence on the part of team manager Lance Latender. But here are some new stats for us. I haven't seen these until just a few moments ago when I stumbled upon them. So, showed you the record. Points for, these really haven't changed throughout the year. Points for Lenny's Legends first, then Team 1, and you can look down the list. Skill Stick was in last. Points against, Lenny's Legends also in first, Team 1 again in second. This is where it gets a bit interesting. Egg United next to last in points against. We've highlighted this all season, the bad luck team in the league. Points for per game. I believe game is matchup. So Lenny's Legends had the most points per matchup, 112.2. Team 1 was second, 106.6. Egg United was third, 105.9, and you can see the rest right there. How about points against per matchup? Lenny's once again in first, 93.6. Team 1 once again second, 96.6. This time, Slay All Day is third, and you look at Egg United, 103.4, next to last, as you might suspect, since they were next to last in points against. Now here's where this was the interesting stat that I hadn't seen before. Point differential. So Lenny's Legends was first, obviously, in points differential, since they were first in points for and first in points against. 18.5 points in the positive direction. Team 2, 10.1 positive. Egg United, even though they were unlucky in the points against, they end up a positive 2.5. Danglers, plus 2. Slay All Day, plus 0.7. And this is what stood out to me. The Mustachios, the third place team, actually had a negative point differential. Negative 0.1, just barely, but still negative. And you look at the rest, the Flames, negative 7.2, Staying Dead, negative 7.9, Skill Stick Fail, negative 9.2, and how is this happening? Negative 9.4. We've seen these stats down here. I think they might have taken into account the bye week for the Legends and Team 1. We won't go through them. You can check those out on your own. We already went through some of those stats anyways up here. Let's go to the scoreboard. Let's go back to, we won't go to the regular season. Let's go to playoff round 1. And remember, Team 1 and Lenny's Legends had a bye in this first round of the playoffs. So the first two matchups, the winner's bracket, these were the 4 teams in the playoffs. Was Slay All Day losing to the Mustachios 108.6 to 92.6. The top performers were Austin Matthews 18.7. Surprisingly, Timo Meyer, who finally did something at the end of the season, 16 points. And in the other winners bracket matchup, the Danglers fell to Egg United 147.9 to 94.6. A big and convincing win for Egg United. We see McDavid had 17.9, but Ovechkin had a few more points, 20.5. Ovechkin also came on at the end of the season. The consolation ladder, these four teams were not in the playoffs, or at least the playoffs that mattered. The Flames lost to How Is This Happening, 113.6 to 107.8, but they will have a chance to get their revenge later on in the playoffs. Jake Ottinger, he was a solid performer for the Flames down the stretch, 13.8, while John Carlson had 15.7. Staying Dead defeated Skillstick Fail 126.4 to 117.9. Braden Point 16.1 points, while Freddie Anderson had 14.4. He was also a big performer in the playoffs. So that was round one. So moving on in the winners bracket was the Mustachios and Egg United. So let's skip to round two of the playoffs, and this is when the top two teams enter the scene. Legends and Team 1. First, Legends face the Mustachios. Legends win 129.7 to 94.9. As I recall, and we're not going to go through this day by day, but as I recall, Mustachios got off to a pretty good lead, but Logan Thompson was the hero, dropped earlier by Skillstick Fail. Legends picked it up, needing a goalie, as you recall, with Thatcher Demko succumbing to injury. So they needed a goalie. They picked up Thompson, and he produced 26.4 points. Mackenzie Weegar was a great performer for the Mustachios all through the season, 14.4 points in the losing effort. And in the other winners bracket matchup, Team 1 defeated Egg United 107.6 to 87.9. A really disappointing performance by Egg United. Skinner was their top performer with 10.6. Another goalie was Team 1's top performer, surprisingly, Samsonov with 13.8. Let's drop down to the winners consolation ladder. 109.2 Doketown Danglers defeat Slay into the offseason. 100.2 Gustafson the goalie, 11 points. McDavid, 15. And Staying Dead defeats How Is This Happening with only 67.6 points to 81.9. Joey Decord, you don't expect him at the top of the list, 10.8, while Robertson had 10.3. And the last matchup, Skillstick failed. Won against Forest Hills Flames, 106.2 to 96. Vasilevsky with 14. Ottinger, once again, the top performer for the Flames, 17.8 points. So that was round two. So moving on to the final matchup, the Legends and Team 1. Playoff round 3, the final matchup. All right. Well, it's at the top. Maybe we should have left it for the end, but actually, let's do that. Let's go down. You've already seen the scores. We already updated the final standings at the top of the video, but let's go into the box scores and see how these matchups did. We'll do a deeper dive in these final matchups. These were marathon matchups. Our commissioner decided that we would have matchups of 2 weeks and 4 days for the final matchup. It went on forever, but well, I was going to say they were good matchups, but really the only close one in the end was, once again, the Danglers facing Slay all day. I don't know how many times they faced each other, but they faced each other once again in the final matchup. So, looking at the Flames and How Is This Happening? Again, they finished last in the final standings. How Is This Happening 232.7 to 27.5.7. So the Flames finish 9th place. Once again, Ottinger was their MVP, 35 points. And it's fitting that Kucherov finishes off as How Is This Happening's MVP with 28.1. He's been their MVP all year. I don't know who the MVP for the Flames was. Maybe Ottinger, maybe Quinn Hughes. But we look at the box score day by day. Really nothing much to say. The Flames had the upper hand all throughout the matchup for the most part. We saw Quinn Hughes with the 23.5 and 1.6 for Aaron Ekblad. Not good, but he only played 2 games. So it's hard to, with it being 2 weeks and 4 days, to remember how many weeks they were in action in the lineup. Maybe it's not really necessary to go through all of these box scores. Maybe it'd be interesting to see the goalies, though. Let's look at the goalies. 33.4 for the Flames, a good total. 13.8 for How Is This Happening? Decent, but wasn't just the goalies. It was the whole team, a whole team effort. Flames defeating How Is This Happening? Next, Staying Dead and Skillstick Vale. Staying Dead was the only team to get into the 300s, 301.3 to 267.1. Not really a blowout, though. Although, as I recall, Staying Dead or Alive, whichever you prefer, got off to a pretty good lead. You see 38 points there on the 6th of April. But Skillstick did come on a little bit here. Well, maybe not. A solid victory, pretty convincing for the 7th place position after starting the season 5 or something like that. A bit more respectful finish with the 7th place finish. You can look at the point totals. I'm not going to highlight them all. Stamkos had 35. And Varlamov had 34. Those were the 2 top players. Negative number from Pickard and 4.8 from Binnington. You look at Skillstick. They had 24 from Kadri, 24.3 from Raymond. The goalies also did pretty good. Vasilevsky, 3.8 and 16.2 for Anderson. So, looking at top 3, I highlighted the top 2 for each, but Kaprizov with 32 was another big number. All right, Danglers and Sleigh Day again. They've played each other many times, but it was a close one. This was the most exciting matchup of the final week, final 2 weeks and 4 days, final matchup. 274.5 to 268.6. It was Doketown winning. Their MVP all year has been Connor Hellebuck. He had 33.2, but the team manager's favorite player, Crosby, also had a great week, 29.6. One of the big value picks, Vetrano, is that how you say it? Frank, 22.6. Surprisingly for Sleigh Day, it was Malkin with 24.9. A couple of Penguins with big totals in the matchup. Bobrovsky, one of their big free agent pickups, 22.8. And Adam Fox, who's been solid all year, 22.1. Let's just look at the box score for a moment. We saw the top 3 for each team. Let's take a look at the goalies. Again, Hellebuck with 33.2 and Nedeljkovic, 13.8. 47. We'll see if that was the top total for the final matchup. That's got to be at least top 2. So 47 for Doketown. The goalies probably were the difference. Well, I think they were the difference, but Slay into the offseason also had a big total from their goalies. Bob had 22.8, and Sorokin, the pickup from the Mustachios, 19.8 for 42.6. So the goalies came to play in this matchup, but Danglers just scraped up a few more points. So they end up in 5th place, Slay Day 6. Then we had the other winners consolation ladder, Mustachios versus Egg United. Again, a really disappointing performance for Egg United. Those second and third rounds of the playoffs were just so disappointing for them. Ovechkin, he came to play. I think I already used that expression, but he had 20.3 points. McAvoy, 17.9. Darnell Nurse, 17.2. You know your team didn't do too well when Nurse is your third point getter. Matthews, no surprise, he had several goals there at the end of the year in his quest for 70, fell short, but 32.6 for Matthews. Jack Eichel, 27.5, and Weegar, once again near the top, 24.8. Look at the box score. The Mustachios got off to a big lead and continued that for the most part all through the matchup. Egg United really didn't put up much of a fight. Humpty Dumpty finally fell down and couldn't be put back together again. Take a look at the goalies. Swayman, 6.6. Ullmark, they had the Boston tandem going, 19.8 for a total of 26.4. Respectable, but not great. Saros and Skinner, you would hope for more from them. 10.8, 8.4 for a total of 19.2. But it wasn't just the goalies. It was a whole team effort in not doing very well. Not meeting expectations in that final matchup. Actually, the final two matchups. Now we go to the final, the championship matchup. And it was the Legends defeating Team 1 297.7 to 255.8. And you see the Nashville duo, Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi, 27.7, 26.2. Cale Makar, 25.4. Surprisingly, Matheson was Team 1's top point getter, 31.1. The trade with the Danglers really working out for Team 1. Nathan McKinnon, no surprise, and Panarin, no surprise, 26.3 and 25.5. So let's look at the box score for this one. It was Team 1 really getting out to a pretty good lead in the first. Well, Legends came back on the 2nd of April, and it was pretty even. But then Team 1 on the 5th and the 6th built a lead. Legends came back on the 7th. Team 1 increased the lead on April 8th and didn't look good, to be honest, for the Legends at this point. But then things changed starting on the 9th. 10th, well, Team 1 had more points on the 10th. Really, it was the 11th. The 11th of April, a Thursday, when things started to turn around from the Legends. 13-3, 18-5, 40-27, 7-5, 34-16, 13-16. Team 1 finally gets the advantage on the 16th, but at that point it was just too little, too late. Legends come out on top. Who is the Conn Smythe Trophy winner? You got to give it to a Legends player. They had two matchups for the playoffs. Certainly in the first matchup with against the Mustachios, it was Logan Thompson as the MVP, but as we'll see, he wasn't that great in the final matchup. I'm going to have to give it to one of the Nashville players, and I'm going to go with Philip Forsberg. He was the Legends' value draft pick, maybe the most extreme value draft pick in the league, and he ends up producing in the playoffs, big point totals, lots of goals. Philip Forsberg, former Capital, now a Nashville Predator. He is your Conn Smythe Trophy winner for the 2024 Stick and Puck Fantasy League Playoffs MVP. Did I say that already? He's the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Looking at players, we already highlighted the top two. Brady Tkachuk was also pretty good, 24.4. Rust did well, 24 point something. And Werenski also was good with 22. Really, most of the Team 1's players did do well. But for them, the negative, literally, was the goalies. Negative 7.2 for Lyon. Negative 0.6 for Samsonov. Negative 10.4 for Lindgren, for a total of negative 18.2. That might be, I think it was the worst goalie performance in the playoffs. Not what you want in the final matchup. Whereas the goalies for Team Lenny's Legends were 21.2 for Shesterkin and 5 for Logan Thompson, for a total of 26.2. So when you put the goalie scores together, really that ended up being just about the difference between the two teams. And that really was the story all year for Lenny's Legends. They had two solid goalies, Shesterkin and Demko. They were in there pretty much the whole season until Demko went down. Shesterkin never came out of the lineup. But whoever the Legends put in net, they produced positive points. Even Jake Allen in the final week helped them defeat Staying Alive. Thompson came up big, as was mentioned already, in round 2 of the playoffs. So if you had to give an award to the difference makers, maybe the MVP would be Thomas Demko. According to points, that's who it would be. But he didn't help them in the playoffs. But the whole goalie squad for the Legends really were... that was the difference, which allowed the Legends to really become the top team in the league. So that is the recap of the playoffs. We looked through rounds 1, 2, and 3. Is there anything else to say? Anything else to look at? Maybe not. But maybe there will be individual awards coming up. Maybe there will be a roundtable discussion for the post-playoffs conversation. But we'll leave it at that. Comment. Let me know if you agree with the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Tell me who you think the MVPs are for each team. I mentioned a couple, but tell us that. And we thank all of the teams for participating, each team manager. We even thank our commissioner for all of his hard work and leadership throughout the 2023-24 Stick and Puck Fantasy Hockey League season. So, we thank you for watching, and until next time, we don't have a catchphrase, but we wish you well.